This is Share the Vision, presented by the Resource Center, a discussion of the programs and services of the Resource Center and about issues related to individuals with disabilities. Today, we bring back our New Year's resolution show after resting it for a few years. Joining me in the room first is Steve Watterson, Community Relations Director at the Resource Center. Steve, good morning and Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you too, Dennis.
It's so nice to bring this show back. We have had a history of doing it off and on over the years, and I really look forward to what's going to unfold here over the next half an hour.
Well, me too. And you're right. I can't remember the last time we did this, but for listeners who aren't familiar with it, we provide some expert advice on how to keep and maintain your New Year's resolutions. Even once we get into January and you've fallen off your New Year's resolution wagon and you feel that all hope is lost, we are here to tell you that that is not the case.
Well, and we have professionals from the Resource Center joining us in the room, and Steve will get back to you in just a few minutes, but allow me to introduce first Jennifer Giesing, the Director of Counseling and Behavioral Health Services at the Resource Center. Jennifer, thank you for coming on the air.
Thank you for having us.
Happy New Year to you.
As well.
And I just want to have the audience get to know your voice for a second, and I will try and point out who's saying what from time to time during the course of this next half hour, radio listeners. Next is Joe Ropoleski. He oversees the counseling and psychiatric services here at the Resource Center. Joe, welcome to Share the Vision.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
And finally, Cindy New, who oversees the PROS, Personalized Recovery-Oriented Services programs at the Resource Center. Cindy, welcome back to Share the Vision.
Thank you, Dennis. It's nice to be here.
Ladies and gentlemen, with your work with people who are trying to achieve healthy lives and better mental health, what have you discovered over time about setting goals and then giving people tools to have them be successful? Should we even try it at this time of year? Are we fooling ourselves if we think we can make changes between December 31st and January 1st? Or is this a good thing for us to sit down and think about right now?
I think it's a good idea any time of the year if someone wants to make a change in their lives. I think putting the pressure on at this time of the year can be difficult for some folks and can really kind of lead them down that trail of failing if they just focus on just this time of the year.
So, Joe, what you're suggesting already on December 31st, as this is broadcast, is that maybe we ought to take a look at the whole of January instead of just tomorrow, January 1st, for these changes?
We can do January, February, March, any time of the year.
Yeah.
But I think that's important. If someone's motivated, I think there's a lot of other things that'll go into that. But if someone's feeling that, hey, this is a time that I really need to make some changes in my life, get some help, talk with friends, family, a counselor, and start the process going.
Jennifer, Cindy, one, the other, both of you, talk to me about motivation and where you find it, or in your experience, the people that you've worked with and helped, where do they find motivation to make change?
Well, I think motivation lies in each of us, and I know we started out this conversation talking about resolutions, and those who know me well know that I really don't put a lot of credit into resolutions. I think that to be successful moving forward and to find those things that help motivate you, you have to make it almost a daily learning and a daily study of something. And it drills down to very small steps. If you like going for a walk, then take a walk. And then that will start the domino effect of something else positive happening towards whatever your goal may be.
Cindy?
Absolutely, I agree. I think that when we start looking at a goal, even getting that motivation is, where's that little space I can begin, even if it's just taking one little step forward at a time. Because when we start looking at the bigger picture, we know what we want to achieve, but sometimes we have to take those little steps to get there because those are great achievements, no matter how small we might think that they are. We have to go one step at a time, reach for that realistic goal. Don't put pressure on yourself to achieve it really quickly. Take your time, think it out, relax, have fun with it, and really move forward in that way.
If you'll allow me the following analogy, and I'll be a little personally revealing as I say this to you, sometimes my sense is that there's some garbage in my life. in terms of my behavior or my attitudes or in some way. And what I really want to do at this time of year is just throw out the garbage and not see it anymore, not smell it anymore. I don't want it around me anymore. What I hear you saying back to me is that that's kind of an unrealistic approach to all of this. Mm-hmm. You're shaking your head at me, Jennifer. Well,
sure. Instead of throwing out the whole pile, pick the one thing you can get rid of. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Or the one piece of something worthwhile that you can bring in. Mm-hmm. Right? Because sometimes when you throw away all that garbage at once, or you try to achieve a task at once, it becomes too much. And that's where we don't stick to our resolutions, because they become too hard for us to do.
Frustration will start to build. Stress and anxiety develops from losing things too quickly or not achieving so quickly. So we want to really find that one thing that we want to grab onto a little bit at a time, and try to make positive comments about that, bring in each strength. And, what is that one little good thing about myself? Am I going to label myself as, being a little bit dumber than I might want to be, or I'm a little bit too heavy? What do we want to do? Try to get rid of those labels so we can find the positives where, I might not be managing my weight properly. However, I am bringing in the facts where, hey, I had a salad for lunch today. Mm-hmm. One little step. And then maybe tomorrow it wasn't so bad to have lettuce and salad for lunch, but I can go ahead and find that cherry on top of the sundae when I go the next day, and I'm able to have that same resolution to try a different and healthier subject matter the next day. One little step.
How long does it take to make really effective change in one's life? Is there an answer to that question?
I think it depends on the level of change and what you're trying to achieve. And I like to think that your entire life is a change. That every day you're going to perfect yourself in another aspect.
On Share the Vision today, we're talking about this point in the year, New Year's resolutions, the new year 2017 to unfold, how to help ourselves, how to help others. Joe, you said something early on about reaching out to other people. Sometimes we may be on two sides of the scale. All we do is talk about our problems and how we want other people to help us with it. Or we're so reluctant to say, I want to make change, that we keep all of this inside. Mm-hmm. What tools have you found that might be valuable for us to use to properly engage others in supporting us as we make change?
You got to start with those close to you and the support systems that we have in place already. And so many times I've heard people say, I don't have anybody, I don't have any supports. And sometimes I tell some of the therapists that maybe we have to change our wording a little bit and ask who do you go to if you're feeling sad, who do you call, what do you do when you're angry, who's involved in that, and then we kind of start to discover who are our true supports, and who can help us through some of these difficult times. So, anytime that you're talking about making a resolution and making a change in your life, drawing in those folks, twofold, they're going to help you to feel more supported and that you can accomplish this. And also, they're going to hold you accountable. If I say I'm going to do this and I tell my sister that, I'm going to lose 30 pounds this year, which unrealistic goal for me, but then that person is going to be on your back and helping you in a positive way, not just harassing you.
How do we help others that we see who express to us that they want to make change, that we know are at this time of year that is notable for its absence of real light? There's a lot of artificial light that we try to use in its place to make us feel better, but the very short days, the gloominess that can come with this time of year, and maybe with an exclamation point at this time of year, because the holiday party and noise and all of the excitement has a tendency to fade as December turns into January. What kinds of things would you recommend to us to help others close to us who reach out, as you suggested, Joe, or that we simply see are kind of down in the dumps at this time of year?
A phone call, reaching out to somebody. I try to stay away from electronics as much as possible in those kind of situations, but sometimes it's a text or a Facebook message that I'm thinking about you. Give me a call if you need anything, and then following that up with a personal outreach and give a call or stop by somebody's house. If you're really concerned about them, haven't heard from them in a while, go there, see that person, talk with them, and really just, be with them. Because sometimes that's all people will need.
We have come out of a very divisive political season, and I'm personally acquainted with some people who were very disappointed with the outcome of it all, to the point of being quite depressed and looking quite bleakly at this. And I've kind of groped to know, what do you say to someone who is reacting to a situation in which they had almost no control, one vote, and really can't change it all, simply must contend with as it unfolds now in a new year and a new era.
Yeah, but first, you have to validate what that person is feeling.
What does that mean? How do you validate somebody's feelings, Jim?
Well, you can repeat back to them what you're hearing them say, and not just repeat back word for word, but really, it sounds like you're very upset about the outcome of this election and or whatever the situation is, and letting them know that you understand what they're saying, but also as Jen said a little earlier, life is change, and no matter what happens, it's going to change. We might have to suffer for a time, and that is very difficult. It might be 4 years, it might be a couple of months, depending on the situation. Right. But that is a part of life, and eventually things will change.
And I think helping people find their one hope.
One hope, Jennifer. What do you mean?
One hope. What is their hope? What is their hope for their future? What is their hope? What is their goal? And helping them shift to, what can we do to help you get there, or what can you do to help yourself get there, and refocusing instead of on the negative things. I want to be a millionaire and I'm not. You want to be a millionaire. What do you have to do first? What's your first step on that? Do you have a plan? Shifting people back to realize that their visions may not be unachievable. And I think sometimes in behavioral health, we get stuck in a rut where we tell people what they can't do instead of work with them for what they can.
Absolutely. And I think also adding in there, where when we're approaching these difficult situations, you brought up the election, trying to make sure that we are able to keep our personal judgment at bay so that we don't make the situation a little bit more difficult for that person. Really focus on, that neutral zone and being there for that person and being open to what they're feeling. We have to make sure that we're able to sometimes remove the barriers that we might put in place for people to approach us or be there for somebody else and try to balance that out. Because judgment, right now at this time of year, we really want to make sure, because we're judging ourselves enough. So to try to remove that judgment that others might place on us would be helpful when we're trying to be there for somebody else.
Let me try and speak back to you, and for the benefit of the listeners, some of the things that you've already said to us here today in terms of looking at all of this from a very positive perspective as opposed to throwing the garbage out, to use the phrase that I did, looking at it in the long term, trying to emphasize little steps to take forward. Am I getting the essence of what you're communicating to me today? I want to leave this for a moment only to come back to it, but Jennifer, I want you to talk a little bit about your work as the Director of Counseling and Behavioral Health Services here at the Resource Center, and we want to weave into this conversation, as I do the same with you, Joe, and Cindy, some of the services that are available to the public if they would like to come and ask for help in making change.
Sure. Well, Dennis, I'm rather new to the Resource Center. I just started here in May, so it's been quite a challenge and a good challenge and quite the journey to learn a new system in a new state. I'm originally from Pennsylvania. I've been working there and for about 20 years in behavioral health. So
we behave much differently in New York.
The regulations are much different here in New York than Pennsylvania. So
I'm just trying to get a laugh out of it.
Yeah. No.
Those people from New York.
It is a little bit different. I will say, but it's been very good. And one of the things that struck me coming here was the level of services that are available in the community here, particularly for adults who are really struggling with mental illness and addiction. So here, right now, we have our director of, or our manager of outpatient services here, and Cindy, obviously, our PROS, personalized recovery-oriented services. These are two things. We do have outpatient in Pennsylvania, but it's done here a little bit differently than we do there. We have some availability to do some things within the home and some crisis services that aren't necessarily available in some of our outpatient clinics that we've worked in the past, which really helps us. I think we can benefit patients, our customers, a little bit better than we have in other circumstances. We can do some outreach. We can try to re-engage folks. We can get them to the table if they're not coming, all of those types of things. So that is a positive thing.
Absolutely.
So, Joe, someone would call it, and this would eventually connect with someone in your area as a counselor, or what do you call the people who help in a place like this?
Well, the majority of our staff are licensed social workers. We do have some other licensed clinicians in the department. But we also have a psychiatrist and 2 nurse practitioners that are available to prescribe medications if that's something that the individual is looking at, and also that's something that they would talk with their counselor about to make a decision. Is this going to be something that could be helpful? Most of the research shows that a combination of counseling and medications is the best treatment path, but not everybody is open to doing that, and that's okay. Each one of those, either just counseling or just medication, can also be very effective at helping folks, depending on their situation and what kind of help they're looking for.
For those people not in crisis, would just talking about things work all right? Or since we started the program with there's some things kind of out of control in my life, things I'd like to resolve to do better. Can you talk people through those, or do they need medication therapy also?
Much of the time, especially if it's situational. I just had a death in the family, or I'm having trouble in my marriage, or one of my kids is having some struggles that I'm having tough time dealing with. That's always possible, that just talking with one of our counselors and them helping you to kind of come up with a very specific plan. How am I going to make some changes? How am I going to feel better about this? You can move forward. Other folks, it might be something that's more biological, that maybe medications could be helpful in combination with the counseling.
Cindy, tell me about PROS, personalized recovery-oriented services, because it's something you're a part of every day, but most of us are not.
And we are a very unique program, and not very many people are really aware of what we do. But here at the Resource Center, we have the ability to have levels of care. So based on the individual's needs, if they're more urgent and if they're more intense, the PROS program is more suitable for those individuals. So we have individuals that come in that may be going through some life stressors that have piled on so intensely that they need ongoing support, maybe for 1 to 3 months, 1 to 6 months. An individual will come in, we'll look at the care in a very personalized way and holistic way. So we have a variety of services in regards to wellness, self-management, whereas you're looking at those coping mechanisms and tools and what can I build to help me reduce my stress and anxiety or depression. We have those abilities to look at housing and employment and how do I keep my independence. If there's something strong going on or I'm being evicted from my housing unit, how can I try to get that back? What skills can I redevelop? But most of all, we are group therapy oriented. We do have individual sessions and they do have counselors, but they have the ability to connect with their peers and find out somebody else who has been in the same situation that they have and they're being successful, and how did that success come about for them. So they're there for each other, is building a network of that they might not have had out in the community, and really trying to build on their strengths rather than the symptoms and the barriers that they experience.
Would it be fair to say that PROS, personalized recovery-oriented services, is the most rigorous mental health-related program that you have, most intensive that you have here?
It is the most intensive. Maybe not as rigorous for some, but we try to make it as stress-free as possible. But there are multiple steps that need to be taken, and we work really closely with them in developing those personalized plans. So it's one step at a time, those realistic goals that they can achieve in a limited time frame, so that they can build those successes and see that I've achieved that, so now I can build on to the next one. So we really try to simplify that for each individual that comes in.
So many things to do here, and we only have a few minutes left, and I do want to get back to a specific point that you raised early in the program, Jennifer, just to have you amplify on it. But one more diversion for me and for the listeners of the show right now. How are we doing as a culture, as a community, a group of people with mental health these days? Because I know recognizing mental challenges has always been harder, even in the New Year's resolution shows we've done years ago. We've talked about how mental health is looked at in a more negative sense than physical health, and if you have mental challenges, there's more wrong with you than if you have had a heart attack or even some major. I see a lot of heads shaking up and down. How are we doing with mental health in the society today?
I think we've come a long way, but I think there's still a long way to go. I come from a very recovery-focused background, and I know that we're starting to bring some of those principles to full effect here within our organization, really looking at individual self-determination, self-direction. These are all concepts that I think TRC has been doing a good job at for a while, but we're really trying to highlight these and remind our customers that we want them advising us. They're our customers, and I think that for us has been a huge cultural shift. I know initially I referred to patients, but we really try to focus on them as customers, and we decided very strategically that we were going to change how we called people, because I think the onus comes back on us to making sure that we are providing the level of service that we would provide to someone who has a cardiac issue or another physical health issue. And it falls on us as behavioral health professionals to really help reduce that stigma.
Jennifer, you said something that has been resonating with me since the program started, and it was kind of illuminating and flashed and then disappeared, so I want to try and get this back again. The way you look at life as a person, and it sounded to me, and the way you encourage other people to look at life, is something more fluid and ever-changing than most of the rest of us see ourselves. Give me a little more on that. Help me a little more understand how we can live without all those signposts and understanding of who we are and what we ain't yet, and all of those things that can come thundering down on us at this time of year.
Sure. We look at life as a journey, and a journey often has potholes, has roadblocks, has bumps in the road. Your car might break down, but ultimately you still keep forging ahead. And that's the way I like to compartmentalize things and to look at how we work with folks and how I live on a daily basis. 6 months from now, life will be completely different for me. 6 months ago, life was completely different for me. And that's what I like to encourage other folks to believe. Again, help them find that piece of hope and that one thing that they want to work to. We call it our life role goal.
We do. Yes.
Okay, life role
goal.
Okay, now give me a little more on that.
Previously in mental health, we look at, I'm going to manage my depression so that I can do more in my life. Now we're really trying to look at, well, if you manage that depression, really, who would you be? What role do you want to achieve? Is it, I'm going to be the best mom that I can be, or I'm going to own my own home, or I'm going to open my own business, or I'm going to be doing childcare in my house, whatever it might be, that role that you want to achieve. So rather than focusing on the symptom and the diagnosis and the label, we're really focusing on the person and who they can be each day that they wake up. So that ultimate goal in life, that achievable goal.
Do you find it difficult? Do some people find it difficult to even enunciate, to locate that goal and speak to it? I failed so many times. My life is such a train wreck. How can I find some positive goal to latch onto? Do you ever get that?
Yes.
Sure.
What do you say there?
Well, that is one of the first roles of the counselors, is to help people clearly define what their goal is, because they might not even know. And it takes some time to sort through that. And some people, it might be right on the tip of their tongues. They know exactly what they want. But I think the vast majority of the folks that we work with, they need a little assistance in sifting through, what's important to them, and also what are some of the things that I just need to accept about myself. That, some things about me aren't going to change, and that's okay. That's who I am.
Right, those permissions that we need to find ways to give ourselves, to be able to either permission to let go, permission to know that it's not going to be perfect today or tomorrow, permission to know that, hey, I can forgive myself or forgive this person. So it's that first step in helping an individual find the ability to give themselves permission.
Wow, this has been so illuminating. Did I cut you off there, Jennifer?
Well, I actually was going to tag in on that. I think a lot of times, too, we stick to the shoulds, musts, oughts, in our lives. I should be thinner. I must be better. I ought to do this. Instead of, again, going back to that 1 ounce of hope, that one positive thing. Yeah, I might be heavy. And by the way, you can't see me, but I am. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. And I'm friendly. And I'm a good person. And those are the types of things that offset those negative thoughts. Because, again, the negative thoughts will drive us down every time and kill our, quote, resolutions and kill what we want to try to be.
So 1 ounce of hope. If we want to leave our listeners with anything today, it is to find that one thing that they that is joyful, that they are happy to anticipate in their lives and build on that. Am I with you okay, counselors, on this?
Absolutely. Sure. Even if it's that one piece of chocolate waiting for you at home that you're saving for later because you've done such a great job today. You know, that one little, that's the hope at the end of that chocolate, that sweetness at the end of the day.
That is the voice of Cindy New, who oversees the PROS program here. You also heard from Jennifer Giesing, the Director of Counseling and Behavioral Health Services, and Joe Ropoleski, who oversees the Counseling and Psychiatric Services here at the Resource Center. And now allow us just a second to switch locations to finish today's program. The conclusion of this final show for 2016 is coming to you from the office of Steve Watterson here at the Resource Center's administrative offices on Dunham Avenue, just outside Celeron. First, Steve, a moment to reflect on the program that we did with the new approach to approaching the new year.
Well, I hope that we gave listeners some good advice and tips for keeping resolutions, if we want to phrase them that way, or making positive change in their life, and also to let them know that there's no pressure. They don't have to do this right now on January 1st. They can make real change in their lives any time of the year.
Steve, some leftover business to wrap up 2016 for the Resource Center. First, Toys for Tots, and we spoke extensively on Share the Vision again this year about this impressive effort. Do you know some final numbers? How many young people were helped this year in the campaign?
Well, I heard from Heather Brown and Terry Johnson, our Toys for Tots coordinators, and they reported that we ended up assisting 2,302 children from 952 families throughout Chautauqua County.
So once again, an extraordinary effort. That's a couple of gifts for each of those children. So we have to thank the community for their generosity in donating all of those toys in such a timely fashion, and the volunteers who helped organize it all.
Oh, absolutely. We couldn't do it without the community support. You know, we had collection boxes set up at probably more than 80 businesses throughout the county where people could drop off toys. We also had some great fundraisers that businesses and individuals did. And as you know, those monies are so important to go out and buy toys in those age groups for which we don't get a lot of donations. So just a tremendous year, and thank you so much, everybody out there who supported our Toys for Tots drive.
What else to finish up this year at the Resource Center, either looking back or looking forward?
A couple events coming up in February, Dennis. We're going to have a Sassy Bags and Blingo event on February 2nd here at our Dunham Avenue offices. It's a fundraiser for the Look Good Fund, and it's going to involve bingo with handbags as the prizes. And then the following night, Friday the 3rd, we're going to be having an art exhibit and show at Raymore and Flanagan. As you may remember, we partnered with them for a Halloween event back in October, and that went very well. And something they've wanted to do for quite a while is to have an art show. We're going to have art created by the artists in our Creations Art program on display at Raymore and Flanagan during that week, and then have a nice event on Friday the 3rd in the evening, and everybody's invited to come to that free of charge.
And one other thing you wanted to mention about the end of the year here at the Resource Center.
Well, as most charitable organizations are doing this time of year, they're making a push for any final year-end financial contributions. We are pointing our donations to our Dream On Kathy Seastead Memorial Fund, which supports people with disabilities who have urgent needs. And anybody who wants to make a contribution to that fund, the TRC Foundation Board of Directors will match that, so you're doubling the impact of your gift. And we also have a fundraising page set up through an organization called CrowdRise, which handles these sorts of things. I think a lot of listeners probably are familiar with CrowdRise. They've been doing a bunch of challenges, and one of the challenges they have going on, if we can raise an additional $500 before January 5th, we'll be in the drawing for a $2,000 additional contribution towards the Dream On Fund. So anybody interested in making a contribution can go to crowdrise.com, search for TRC Foundation. Once you get on our page, you can scroll down and you'll see the link to the Dream On Kathy Seastead Memorial Fund.
And as you said, for the New Year's resolutions, people don't have to really do that today. But in the case of this, they need to do it in the next few days in order for you to take advantage of all these opportunities.
Yes, I think they've got till 1:59 p.m. on 5th, which is Thursday. So anybody who wants to contribute, I know there are a lot of worthy organizations out there asking for support, but this is a great fund because it does support people with disabilities in the community who just don't have the money to do the things that they need. And sometimes literally a relatively small amount of money can make the difference between whether someone can continue to live independently or even maintain a job. So a little bit goes a long way, and we would encourage folks to make a donation.
Well, Steve, we have to bring this to a conclusion for today. For 2016, I would just say thank you for sharing the vision with me.
Thanks, Dennis, and thank you, everybody.